Hello and welcome to today's video. Now, this is the first video of the third section of OCRB History Modern World Paper 1 in the interwar years. We've looked at already the treaties post World War I, we've looked at the setup of the League of Nations and its failure, and now the third part of the first half of Paper 1 is to do with the build-up to World War II, the road to World War II. And one of the main aspects of that is looking at appeasement and also why did World War II happen. Now obviously you can link it to the Treaty of Versailles, you can link it to the League of Nations, but you also have to look at other aspects, and one of the main aspects is looking at this man in the middle, Adolf Hitler. And with Hitler, he is an instigator of war and is considered as one of the main factors of the Second World War starting, but we have to really understand, well, what were his aims? Why did he want to go to war? What did he want when he became a ruler of Germany? Now, when it comes to going back to looking at the League of Nations, we obviously can see that the League of Nations failed in two places, one being Manchuria in 1931 and the other being Abyssinia in 1935, both regarding Japan and Italy. But we have to be thinking, actually, is their biggest failure of the League of Nations actually that the fact that they did not stop Adolf Hitler in the years 1933 to 1939, 1939 being the year that the Second World War started. And we have to be really thinking, if you're a top-level student, you're thinking, well, actually, was the biggest failure of the League of Nations not stopping Adolf Hitler? Now, when it comes to Hitler, he wrote most of his thoughts down in his book from 1924, which is called Mein Kampf, which is underlined here in red. Mein Kampf, a book written by Hitler in 1924. And when it comes to his aims in foreign policy, there are three big aims. And I'm just going to go round the spy diagram of Hitler's aims one by one. Now, the first aim of Adolf Hitler was to abolish the Treaty of Versailles. The Treaty of Versailles had been imposed on Germany at the end of World War I and had listed many demands that Germany had to follow. And many people in Germany resented the Treaty of Versailles and how it had been imposed upon Germany as a country. And many considered it as a massive point in why their country was so weak. Hitler himself, as written in his book, said, "The Versailles Treaty is worthless. 60 million German hearts and minds are on fire with anger and shame. They will cry out, 'We want war.'" And for many, this is kind of like an example of Hitler saying the only way to really abolish the Treaty of Versailles is to instigate war, to be aggressive, to condone violence. So that was his first aim. His second aim, which is on the left here, was to expand Germany. Germany was a country that had been expanding since the late 19th century and really hit its peak just before the outbreak of World War I. And though they lost World War I and had a lot of territory taken off them, I feel that the whole idea of Germany building up an empire and being great and being in competition with big countries in the world never really went away in the interwar years. And people like Hitler and other nationalists and imperialists really just kept reiterating their case that Germany needed to be a big, strong, great country. And as he's written once again in Mein Kampf in 1924, "It will be the duty of German foreign policy to get large spaces to feed and house the growing population of Germany. Destiny points us towards Russia." And the reason we keep looking at Mein Kampf and thinking 1924 is like, well, if you knew Hitler was saying these things in 1924, why is it the European statesmen, the League of Nations, didn't do anything about it in the 1930s? Because remember, Hitler doesn't come into power until 1933 and really doesn't start to become aggressive until about 1935-36. And so we have to be thinking, was this Hitler's aims all along? And really that people should have known better in what he was going to do. That is one argument anyway. So he's expand Germany, and the German word for that is Lebensraum, which was to make Germany bigger, places for its population, it could expand out. Okay, just like Britain had done in a way. But also, we'd seen after the Great Depression, Italy had been expanding. Japan had been expanding and Germany felt that it was their time to expand, and one place that Hitler really focused on was Russia, and mainly because of Russia, because that was a place where it was a communist country. It was one of the few communist countries at the time in the world. It had massive amounts of resources and people and land and space, and Hitler was extremely anti-communist. He hated everything that communism stood for, its ideals. He felt there was a huge conspiracy of communism taking over the world, which was also linked to the idea of international Jewry taking over the world, so his hatred for the Jews and communism was very much linked. The Bolshevik Revolution was very much linked, in his eyes, to the Jewish conspiracy. And as he says in his book again, the menace of Russia hangs over Germany. All our strength is needed to rescue our nation from this international snake. So as you can see, strong words when it comes to his aim of defeating communism. So when it comes to Hitler's aims, the main three are abolishing Treaty of Versailles, is 1, expanding Germany, 2, and defeating communism, 3. And therefore, you have to then start thinking, well, could the League of Nations and Europe, particularly Britain and France, have actually stopped this man who, let's face it, is talking in extremely aggressive terms? He's talking about going against international treaties. He's talking about expanding his country, no matter where, even if it's into other countries. He's talking about taking down a huge country in Russia and pushing towards defeating a type of ideology. And so you'll be thinking, well, it's all well and good saying these countries could have stopped Hitler, but as this historian here, Hal Fisher, points out, a country which is determined to have a war can always have it. So really, when we look back in hindsight, was there any point in talking to Hitler? He was always going to go to war, and ultimately we have to start thinking in this part of the topic, whose main fault was it for the start of World War II, and what were the factors that led to it?